Ah, that's right.
Hello, everyone. This is our next episode here. I am Consuelo Lara.
I'm Madeline Kronenberg
This is Between Two Teachers.
in two different chairs.
Yes. So I just wanted to share real quick. I went to Ford Elementary for the Dia de los Muertos. Each classroom did an altar, an altar, and they decorated it. And there's real specific things that are included in those, and they are so colorful and just so beautiful. I put it on my website, all the different altars that they are, and I got the opportunity to score them, and because it's a little contest, and I think they pick two and they get a pizza party, something like that. So it's just wonderful. It's just a wonderful little event. Just wanted to share that. So we want to talk a little bit about the race with Tony, and things that have been coming in the mail, and how difficult it is to see a lot of these things that are not truths anyway. So, Madeline, can you share more?
There have been tens of millions of dollars spent in our state superintendent of public instruction race against Mr. Thurmond, who would be the absolute best person to win. So this has been sent on behalf of Marshall Tuck by his a committee that is supporting him called Ed Voice. And I just wanted to go through what it says because it is so deceptive. So it says, the only candidate for state superintendent of public instruction who turned around 15 of California's toughest schools. Well, whether he gets credit for that or not is another whole matter. He had the teachers do a vote of no confidence in him, but he's taking credit for the good work of those teachers. So we'll have to set that aside and let it stand. But if you go and look online, you'll see what the teachers in those schools said about him, and that the improvement happened after he left. Then it says, opposes Trump and DeVos. Well, he may oppose Mr. Trump, President Trump, and Secretary DeVos on some issues. Perhaps he opposes the voucher issue, which is really a non-starter in California, and both of them have supported that in other states. But the major position of Mr. Trump and Ms. DeVos that hurt the children of California is the position on charter expansion, taking money, diverting it out of public schools and moving it into charter schools, into the private sector. And as we know, Mr. Tuck very much supports charter expansion. He has no interest in doing a pause like Mr. Thurmond has, where he's trying to find a way for us to be able to be funded fairly and not have our districts go into bankruptcy because of their hemorrhaging money to the charters. So that is a very deceptive statement. It makes Mr. Tuck look like the only person who's anti-Trump when he is actually the person aligned with Trump and DeVos. He supports Dreamers. Well, I'm very aware of the fact that Mr. Thurmond also supports Dreamers, so there's no difference between them in that. The difference, the true difference, is that Mr. Tuck is the only one endorsed by President Obama's Education Secretary, Arne Duncan. He doesn't, of course, use Mr. Duncan's name because he wants to use Mr. Obama's name. And President Obama did not endorse Mr. Tuck. It's like Mr. Thurmond could say he's endorsed by California Teachers Association, which also endorses President Obama. That doesn't mean that President Obama endorses Mr. Thurmond either, but so Mr. Obama is being brought in to mislead voters. This is a very misleading, deceptive document that's been sent to us. And then it says it's Democrat Marshall Tuck. Democrat Marshall Tuck is not endorsed by the Democratic Party. the only Democrat endorsed by the Democratic Party is Tony Thurmond. So all the way through, this is a document that leads you to false conclusions, and it's drawn up that way. He's also got another one where he mentions the lawsuit from the ACLU, which is mentioned inside of this. And the ACLU of Northern California has written a letter, not to Mr. Tuck, because this is done by an independent expenditure committee, but to them, to the folks at Ed Voice, telling them how the members of the ACLU are so incredibly disappointed in the level of integrity that this organization is showing in how they are doing their advertising. The simple fact of the matter is that teachers and folks that really believe in the importance of public education and our public education system have chosen to support Tony Thurmond. People who believe in privatizing our system, diverting money from our system into a private system, and believe that that is the best path forward for California, support Marshall Tuck. Only they don't want to tell you that.
Exactly. The other thing is just as bad, if not worse, are the television ads, which are getting worse and worse, especially the insinuation about sexual harassment and assault. And I was teaching at the school where that incident happened, and it was so traumatizing for all of us as a community, and to bring that up. And again, because we know that when you revisit trauma, it just traumatizes you all over again.
Exactly.
And to actually do that in an advertisement, that's just evil, just heartless. And it's important for all of us to use a critical eye when we hear those things, when we see those things, and when we get these flyers. It's just so unfortunate that they cannot use the truth, because the truth would show that Tony is the best candidate. They can't use experience. They can't use commitment or dedication or past accomplishments. They can't use any of those, because Tony would by far shine out much more than Tuck. So they have to revert to, mudslinging, basically, just mudslinging.
And that's exactly right. And our former superintendent Harder, wrote and said that he reminded him of what happened to John Kerry. It's swift boating. It's just an absolute smear campaign that is unworthy of California, unworthy of any of these folks who are involved in it. And in the end, it may well be that next week, when we're doing our next episode of Between Two Teachers, that we'll be talking about Marshall Tuck having won this race. And if it's true, that's because Marshall Tuck bought it. This is simply about the money and the fact that we are swamped with flyers, with TV ads, with radio ads, with online communications that are misleading and terribly unfair to the voters. And I'll just say this, as our role in the League of Women Voters, we are dedicated to making sure that voters get the information they deserve and that it's clear and fair to them. And that is not being the case here in this race.
Exactly. So we will see what happens, and we will discuss it next week.
Right.
We want to end on a good note. Where there was a great career fair at Richmond High. Many unions participated, and Contra Costa College, the workforce programs, and other community agencies. It was so successful. And one of the presenters said, she goes, "I've never talked to so many people in one day." Kids were interested, and it was just a wonderful event. And it was also open to the public at the end after school was out. I mean, it was just amazing. And it's not the last, and we're going to have others. And then something's going to come of it also in terms of after-school programs.
The
Want to talk
big
about that?
excitement for trades and for students moving forward into careers in the trades is, first of all, for them and for faculty members and the the school community to really understand this as a possibility, as a really, truly exceptional opportunity for students and their families and their futures. And then also to understand the steps that you have to take in order to make it happen. And the big step is, it's not unlike college. You have to take a test. There are tests that determine who gets to go to work and who doesn't. And in a meeting Consuelo and I recently had with a union leader, he was telling us that the test for his trade, 600 people originally signed up, 400 people actually showed up, 150 people actually passed it, and then 30 people made it through the interview. So what we need to have is people who understand those numbers and are ready to be in the 30. So what we're going to do is, Mr. Hilliard discussed this with us, and his hope is that the Richmond High will have an extended after-school opportunity for perhaps for SAT prep, which they now do on Saturdays, but I think they could also do that after school. But to have an apprenticeship test prep program, which we now have and have had for a number of years since the bond program began, and we have it in adult ed. So the adult ed program, the adult ed class in test prep would move to Richmond High so that the students at Richmond High would then be able to understand how they were going to successfully make it into that top 30 and actually get the job and get past that barrier. And also, I think it's important for the teachers to understand what the real world connection is from the classes they teach into where they are in these tests. So this is a really exciting opportunity. I would hope that we get to expand it to all of our schools so that being in the trades is a real possibility no matter which high school you go to in West Contra Costa.
Very exciting, very exciting. More opportunities for our students, so the future looks great. So there's the good news, and this is Consuelo Lara and
Madeline Kronenberg, and I just want to remind everybody to get out and vote. And if you're in West Contra Costa, you can check out both of our websites before you do it so that you can get to know our positions and plans for the district's future. My website is madelinkronenberg.com.
mine is consuelolara.com.
See you next week.
Thank you. Bye.